Gen X women are living in a phase of life that didn't exist for any generation before us. And if you don't move through this new phase with intention, you will not only hurt your business, you will hurt your body. And in today's episode, we're going to cover what this phase is and how you can tackle this phase with energy, vibrancy, and cash flow that will make your bank account sing. Welcome to the Frequency of Yes, the podcast for women leaders creating limitless success, deep empowerment, and divine wealth on their terms. I'm Kirsten Carey, and I'm obsessed with helping badass women feel good in their bodies so they can sustain wildly successful businesses without grinding or sacrificing themselves. Now, I remember as a kid playing business owner in my periwinkle-colored bedroom in the suburbs of Philly. I had a trapper keeper that I would pretend was a clipboard, and that my stuffed animals were employees who would rush into my office so I could sign off on important documents on that clipboard. And I would put on cherry chapstick, and I would pretend it was lipstick, and I would play She Works Hard for the Money by Donna Summer on my little tape player over and over while I practiced my business owner signature. And according to the movies of the 80s, successful women wore power suits, pantyhose, shoulder pads, and lots of Aquanet. And as far as I could tell at 8 years old, being a business owner meant that you were busy, you made tough decisions, and you had lots of people working for you. And then you were featured in the newspaper for receiving awards from the Chamber of Commerce. And you said things like, it's not personal, it's business. And decades later, after I had built coaching programs and restaurants and real estate investment companies and a high-ticket wellness program, I looked at all the businesses that I had built. And people legit ran into my office to have me sign off on important documents on actual clipboards. And I had the money, and I had the teams, and I had the clients, and I even had the awards and the newspaper articles. I had done everything that 8-year-old me had set out to do. But when I was a kid imagining all this, I imagined I would feel powerful and energized and happy once I made it. But there was this moment one afternoon where I just kind of looked around my office, and there were papers everywhere, and my phone had a bunch of unanswered notifications on the screen, and a bunch of people were waiting in my Zoom room. And I thought, wow, is this it? And then it just kind of hit me all at once. I was done with the hustle. I was tired of working hard for my money. And I was done with this level of work so that someday I could enjoy my life. Because the someday was here, and I wasn't enjoying it. And when you're 20, 30, even 40, the grind makes sense. You're moving towards something. But once you're 45 or 50, the someday becomes now, today. And I swear, the day I turned 50, I started seeing the world very differently. I was no longer moving towards something. I was there. And I wanted to reap the rewards of all that hustle that I had done for decades. And I realized that the way that I learned to build business, the way that I learned to scale, the way that I had learned to support my team and even my clients, none of it was really serving me in this phase of life. Because I wasn't ready for retirement. I wasn't burned out. I wasn't willing just to walk away. But I also was no longer willing to continue with that level of effort and hustle. I was ready to receive the living part, the enjoying part. The experience, I wanted to experience all the things that the work had gotten me. And it took me about 2 years to wrap my head around how I wanted to do it, to readjust. I needed to redesign how my business operated so that it supported who I was now, not who I was in my 30s. And what I discovered is that there's a phase of life that no one has named yet. And if you're 45 to 60, you're probably living in it right now. Not probably, you're straight living in it right now. Because traditionally, when people talk about women's life phases, there's 3. There's the Maiden, the Mother, and the Crone. Now, I am not in love with the name of that last one, but that's what it's been called for a long time. So I'm not going to rock the boat. We're just going to roll with it. But the Maiden phase, it's discovery. It's becoming, it's exploring, it's opening up yourself to the world. It's the phase I was in when I was imagining what it would be like to be a business owner and work hard for my money. And then the Mother phase is the creation, the expansion, the nurturing, the building. And whether you have literal children or not, this is the phase where you're creating and growing and making things happen. This is typically the grinding for the future phase. And then there's the Crone phase. This is the wisdom, the distilling, the releasing, the knowing. This is the elder, the wise woman phase. And for generations, that's how it worked. You move from maiden to mother to crone, and there really wasn't anything in between. They essentially followed the bleeding phases in a woman's life. There's the prepubescent, the fertile, and the menopausal stages. But for those of us that were born in the 70s, the 80s, the ones that grew up with hair bands and Madonna and hip hop, we're Gen Xers. Now, there's some late boomers in there, and there's some early, older millennials in the mix, but in this phase where a whole different world is available to us that was never available to the women before us. We're the first generation of women who could actually own property without a male cosigner. The first to have our own bank accounts, the first to build businesses we actually could legally control. We're some of the very first women to ever play organized sports. And we were some of the very first women to purposely push off having children until later in life so that we could have careers, or to consciously not have children at all. The healthcare system is actually finally studying women and illness as it relates to us specifically. Most of the studies were actually done on men only. And we are currently the generation that has the longest life expectancy of any generation. Many of us are the major breadwinners in our households. We're caring for generations both older and younger while also having careers. And all of these shifts and freedoms, they've created a new phase that did not exist before. So there's this fourth phase that's emerged between the mother phase and the crone phase. I'm calling it the matriarch phase. This is the phase for those of us who aren't done yet. We still have so much more to offer. And we're no longer willing to give it, though, at the level we did to get to where we are now. We're not ready for retirement. We're not ready to step back and just dispense wisdom from the sidelines. We're not ready to wind down. But we're also not willing to keep grinding the way we did in our 30s and 40s. Now, currently, I'm 52. The idea of being a senior citizen is absolutely laughable to me. When I drive past those communities with signs that say 55 plus, my mental image of what a 55 plus person is does not match how I feel. I'm out of the mother phase. I'm done with building things from scratch and proving myself and taking care of everyone else and hustling for someday. I'm just done. But I'm not ready for the crone phase. I'm not ready to retire. I'm not ready to be the wise elder shrilling up in the corner, mixing my potions and becoming invisible. I'm somewhere in between. And I have another good 20 or 30 years of creating and leading and impacting. I just don't want to mentally, emotionally, or physically give at the levels I've given at this point. I want to receive, enjoy, flow. I'm not ready to shut the company down and live on a beach somewhere. I mean, there are moments. That sounds lovely. But I also know who I am. After like a week or two, I'd be bored out of my mind. This is the matriarch phase. This is authority and governing and deciding and reorganizing and refining and leading. You're not building the queendom anymore. You're ruling it. You're not proving yourself. You're wielding the power that you have earned. And you're not establishing yourself. You're operating from your established authority. And if we look at this from the bleeding phase, like the idea of the bleeding phases, this is the most transformative stage physically. Our bodies are weaning off of the hormones created by our ovaries and learning how to find balance with just the hormones produced by our adrenal glands. Doing this successfully without crashing, hot flashing, or murdering your husband for chewing too loudly takes intentional focus on our needs, our bodies, our purpose. And most of us were trained not to do that. Gen Xers pride ourselves in being hyper independent and handling all of the things. We are like superpower level good at that. But taking care of ourselves, that's a new skill that we need to accept and we need to learn because we were so focused on everyone else for so long. And here's the thing. A lot of women are waffling and really struggling in this phase right now. They can feel something has shifted. They know they don't want to keep operating the way that they have been, but they don't know what to do about it. They're being told they're burned out. They're being told to scale back, slow down. Maybe it's time to retire. And that's bullshit. We're not burned out. We're in a different phase, a phase that needs a different strategy. So if you keep grinding the way you did in your mother phase, over functioning, trying to prove yourself, moving at breakneck speed, your body will become overloaded. You are changing hormonally, metabolically, chemically. You're changing in ways that no other phase goes through quite the same way. And women who aren't intentionally recalibrating for this phase, they are experiencing chaos. They are experiencing burnout, illness, business collapse. And it can happen quickly. Not because you're not capable, not because you're doing something wrong, not because you can't handle it. It's because you're using the mother phase strategy in a matriarch phase body and it doesn't work. I had a high ticket program for 15 years focusing on helping women reverse autoimmune diseases like diabetes and Hashimoto's, celiac disease, and chronic fatigue. Perimenopause was often the last straw before autoimmune or a chronic illness would hit. Crawling your way back from that is a heck of a lot harder than simply stopping it in the first place. And most women have had years of warning signs for the actual diagnosis. So the first step in all of that is deciding that something needs to change. And this matriarch stage is the perfect time for women to take and make that change. You're not ready to retire. You have genius and purpose and so much more to give. But the way you built your business doesn't serve who you are now. And intentionally stepping into the matriarch phase is a crucial business decision. Those who just get swept up in it, who don't recalibrate, and who keep trying to push through the old strategies, they struggle. They feel stuck. They suffer physically, emotionally, and financially. And from my experience, the women who step into this phase with precision and purpose and support, they thrive. This phase did not exist for the women before us. My grandmother didn't have this. My mother didn't have this. They went from mother to crone. There was no in between. But we have it. We're living it. And we're doing what GenX has always done. We're creating a new path, a new way that looks different than the paths of the women that came before us, different from the women coming behind us. This matriarch phase is new, and we're figuring it out in real time. And I have spent the last several years helping women move through this transition intentionally, physically and strategically. Because here's what I know with 100% certainty. You do not have to figure this out alone. In fact, you can't, or you would have done it by now. Because this doesn't work in a vacuum inside your head. You need to get out of your head and out of your own way. This isn't a throw some HRT at it and do some yoga and it's going to fix itself kind of situation. You can't keep pushing through old strategies hoping that they'll eventually right themselves again. There's a reason they feel wrong. It's because they don't fit you now in this phase. You're a different woman than the woman you were that got you to this point. And you no longer have to choose between success and yourself. There's a way to redesign how your business operates so it can support who you are now. So you can receive and enjoy and flow while still creating and leading and impacting. That's what the matriarch phase makes possible. So let's recap. Let's talk about the important pieces of what we just talked about today. This phase didn't exist for our mothers and our grandmothers. We're creating it in real time, and that means you get to decide what it looks like for you. You don't have to figure this out alone. You don't have to keep pushing through strategies that just don't fit anymore, hoping that they're eventually going to feel right again. If you're in this phase and you can feel something needs to shift, but you're just not sure what, I created the richly resourced programs for this. And if you don't know where to start with the richly resourced audit. It shows you exactly where you are in your business, where it's out of alignment with who you are now, where you're wasting energy, where the gold actually is, and if you're digging in the wrong direction. Because here's the thing, you're probably a hell of a lot closer than you think. You just need to dig in a slightly different direction. Now, the audit's a 20-page personalized assessment that moves through all of the things that are important to you, your business, your body, your nervous system, your finances, your priorities, all of it. Plus, you get 2 sessions with me where we walk through it and build your specific strategic plan. Link is in the show notes for more information. Welcome to the Matriarch Phase. Let your